That's right. How you doing this afternoon? Hey, I'm Ann Eller, and I am here with Senator Billy Garrett this afternoon. So how are y'all doing? Starting a little later, but just trying to accommodate his schedule here. And since I own the radio station, we can go live anytime we want. That's just the truth of the matter. So I hope you've had a good day today, and welcome, Billy. How are you doing today?
And I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you.
Absolutely.
You've had a tremendous year, all the things that you've done for our community. I can't help but thank you for all the things that you've done. There's not a kid in Greenwood who didn't get something from that.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't believe that. You know, I mean, a lot of people certainly helped in a lot of different things. And it's great to be able to do that. And that's actually what I think a radio station should do. They should be involved in helping our community. So.
Well, you called upon me to help you at the Burton Center, and that was one of the most pleasurable experiences of my life. That was fun. I mean,
the parade,
those folks out there, they really enjoyed it. They really deserved it. And, just thank you again for all you do, Ann.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you very much. So it looks like session starts. So have you had any vacation time, Billy?
You know, a little bit. I hunt, and I did get to go out to North and South Dakota and got to hunt. I got to duck hunt, and the pheasant season wasn't in, so I didn't get to pheasant hunt this year, which I normally do every year, and so gonna miss that this year because it's over.
Well, how about, did you take your grandsons?
Oh yeah. They didn't get to go out west with me, but we got to hunt several times here locally. We had to deer hunt, and my grandboy. Jackson killed an 8-point on New Year's Day at a youth hunt.
Wow.
Down in Sumter. So, yeah, I mean, the tradition carries on. We're excited about teaching them. They both got .308 rifles with scopes. And their father, of course, is a federal agent, so their training, he makes sure that they do everything the right way with their ear. They wear the ear protection and the glasses and all the things and all the safety that goes into it. And it's a tradition, and they're bringing back, meat, and actually we're processing the meat, and we as a family eat that. And of course, I brought my ducks back this year. They let us use normally they require that we let the ducks go to the families of the Indian tribe where we hunt. And this year they had enough, so they told us we'll be welcome to take our own back. So we got to bring some duck back. So we're looking forward to a nice venison and a nice duck supper one time in the very near future.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Fun stuff, and you got to come join us.
All right. Well,
I don't know how you'll do with the duck. We'll see. We'll see.
That sounds great. Well, listen, let's get started because I know there is a lot to talk about. Committee assignments. You are on the Finance Committee.
Right. Banking
and Insurance.
Right.
Labor, Commerce, and Industry.
That's right.
Medical Affairs.
That's right.
And Fish, Game, and Forestry.
Yeah, that's me. I like that one.
You like that one?
I like them all.
Well, that sounds good. I know that last year was a difficult year down there in the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
What do you think this year's going to be like?
Well, this is the second year, of a 2-year term, and there's unfinished business, and so we have a lot of things. We were focused on a lot of things like tort reform and whatnot, and dram shop reform, which is liquor liability reform and whatnot. So a lot of that got done, and so we've got a lot
to your satisfaction.
Well, let me just say I voted for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it perfect? No. Could it be better? Yes. But it's all about compromise, and both parties and independents and independent thinkers have to come to some conclusions that everybody can vote for. And so,
have we had any more insurance companies coming in?
And
I had to ask that question, Billy.
All of those insurance companies were here already. They were just working against the fine people out there that are running our bars and that kind of thing, and our food establishments, And I represent several of them, and I'm keeping up with them. And I actually called, I won't give any names. They may not appreciate that, but I represent several, and I ask them whether or not their premiums have gone up or down. and they said it's basically remained the same. But, if you look at it, if they got half the coverage now, that they had before, and they haven't reduced the price, then who won here?
Right.
And the insurance companies have won. And so there needs to be some review of what insurance companies are doing.
Well, do you think there should be state control of the insurance companies?
Well, let me just say this. In the area of medical malpractice, we have some rules and regulations that apply. In the area of workers' compensation, we have some rules that apply. And when you're talking about an area of automobile insurance and or liquor liability insurance, some rules have to apply. And so we have some rules, and those rules sometimes need to be modified if they're not answering to people's needs. And I don't see that. I don't see their needs being met. I see increased premiums and less payouts. These ideas about, so many payouts and all. I went and looked at Newberry just at a happenstance to see how many big verdicts there were. Well, there were none. Mm-hmm. And I went to Greenwood and I talked to Greenwood, and there are no big verdicts. So as I talk about, there were only 6 verdicts in Newberry that actually went to trial. So all of these cases that are settling by competent insurance adjusters and competent lawyers, both defense and plaintiffs' lawyers, who are analyzing the value of a case and making a decision to either settle the case or risk it and let a jury decide it. And so, that's our system.
Right.
A good offense, a good defense, a good neutral judge who makes the decision, and it turns it over to the jury and says, "What say you?" And 12 people have to all agree, and they tell us what the verdict is. And so that's the best system there is in the world. So I don't want to do anything to harm that system, but we're getting away from the jury trial system. And if you're a constitutionalist, as I am, in a civil case, it says that if you have a $25 claim, they never changed it, believe it or not,
okay,
you have a right to a trial by jury before anybody can take that $25 from you. That's America, man. I'm so excited about that. I don't know what to say about that. And there are people, those trial lawyers.
What is that, from the 1700s or something?
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
What's that $25 worth today?
I don't know. Probably a lot of money.
Right.
And probably a lot of money. But then that was what they set it at. So, a continuum of the idea of justice, civil justice, between injured parties and non-injured parties, or people in contracts, or whatever it is. It's just great to have a system of justice where we can take it to a jury of our peers and let our neighbors tell us what the fair value of that case is.
Right.
What's wrong with that, Ann?
I don't know if there's anything wrong
with it.
Well,
there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And this idea about runaway verdicts, maybe there are those in New York, and maybe there are those in California. I'm telling you, in Lexington County, in Saluda County, and in Greenwood County that I represent, there is no such thing as a runaway verdict. It doesn't exist.
How about Charleston?
Charleston, there's some pretty good verdicts, but again, nowhere near, what's being portrayed. Look, how could the insurance industry in the country make $92 billion, not a million, $92 billion last year before last?
In South Carolina?
No, in the whole United States.
Okay, all right.
How could they have made that kind of money paying out all these claims they're claiming that they're having to pay out? Okay, I'm sorry. They're just not paying out.
Well, I think part of the big problem that happened last year was the fact that the insurance companies showed nothing. You asked for it.
Well, we asked for it, and they didn't show it. You know why? Because they know that the records are going to show that the actual payouts are going down, Ann, and they have historically, and they've been going down. And so for them to say, and all they're doing is putting more money in their pocket. Again, look, I'm all about capitalism. I'm in favor of our insurance companies. Listen, I have people that I represent who are actually insurance agents. I represent them personally. Right. And they're my friends.
You charge them more, just out of curiosity?
No, I don't. No. But I represent those folks, and they have to take care of their family just like each of us.
Sure.
And it's a small business.
Yes.
And we all need to take care of our small businesses. A little law firm, my law firm, for instance, is a little law firm that's been there for 42 years. Okay, and so all these other lawyers in Greenwood, I mean, they have these little law firms, and they're trying to make a living just like everybody else. And whether they're a defense lawyer law firm, or whether they're a plaintiff's lawyer law firm, or whether they do estate work, or whatever it is they do,
Sure.
you know, they are there. And if you reach an impasse and you can't settle your case because one side is obstinate and is against the other, there's always the option of letting a jury decide it.
Sure.
So, I mean, we have that whole system of justice that's set up here, and we've got great judges here. We got Frank Addy, who is our local judge. We have Jane Merrill, who is now going to be our local judge as well. So we have two resident judges. We have Don Hocker, who's retired, and he is out of the Lawrence area. And then we have Bubba Griffith, who is out of the Newberry area. So we are
That's why they tell you see you in court, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly why
I'll
they
see
you in court.
I'll see you in court.
Right.
Yeah, you'll hear that from time to time.
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited about our system of justice in Greenwood. I'm excited about Newberry. I mean, just our whole area, you know, and in the state as a whole, you know, the system of justice works.
Except for how we pick judges.
Well, I mean, there are those who complain about that. And let me just say this about that. The Constitution, as our Constitution, the South Carolina Constitution, has set up a method for us to do that. It's called the Judicial Merit Screening Committee. And that committee is designed to have people on there who know the business, who are subject matter experts in choosing judges.
But hasn't there been a lot of confusion about lawyers and them being in front of the judges that they have picked? I mean, what do you think the likelihood of it being changed this year? There is conversation about it being changed, right?
Absolutely. Let me just say this. It's constitutional, number one, so we have to be extremely careful how we change it. Number two, the governor's office has made the argument that they should be entitled to pick more of the judges, et cetera, and that they've been cut out. Well, they weren't cut out. The Constitution cut them out at a time when that decision was made. So in order to change that, you got to go before the people and have a vote on it. Yes, it's true that there are some lawyer legislatures who do appear in front of judges. Now, let me just say this. As it relates to magistrates court judges, we've now had a Supreme Court justice change. I have always and failed not to go in front of a judge that I have appointed. I will not do that. We can get a judge from another county to come in, and that's what I do. If I have a case in front of one of my local judges, I'll call the court administration and say, look, here's my situation. Can I get somebody from Lawrence or Newberry or Anderson?
Everybody is not as ethical, though, Billy.
Well, but he's now the Chief Justice, Judge Kittredge, has now made that the law. You can't appear in front of a judge you appoint. Okay? Now, that's a pure appointment by a senator, and that's senatorial privilege, and that's something that's been in the law, again, forever. Now, let's move on. As it relates to a circuit court case, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, I have asked the Chief Justice to consider that before any case is tried, that the lawyers, both for the plaintiff and for the defendant, regardless of which one's the lawyer legislator, that they asked of the court to have a hearing if anybody on either side of the case complains about that relationship or that potential relationship. Then that court can hear that case and make a decision. And then if he doesn't feel comfortable that he can be fair to both sides, then the judge in that case can use a retired judge, similar to Judge Hocker. You know, Judge Hocker now is a retired judge. They don't get the scrutiny that these other judges get once they're retired. And so it's not dependent upon, you know, the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. And so most lawyers know that the judges that they go in front of. Do we have all 100% perfect judges? The answer is no. Do we have a lot? The answer is yes. I would say that the greatest majority of our judges are very ethical. The judicial screening is extremely, I mean, they know everything. I mean, they literally know divorces. They know whether or not it was adultery. They know everything. When that person applies to be a judge, they are really just and that's in private, of course, to the committee that is ethical and professional, and of course they can't disclose that. Anybody that discloses that's a violation of law. I mean, a legislator go to jail for disclosing those things. So, I mean, the point of it is that they are really scrutinized, and if they come out of screening, then they must be clean. They've got no disciplines against them. The bar's not disciplined them. There's no lawsuits pending against them. Okay. They've got no tax liens. They, if they're divorced, it was probably a divorce that was either acrimonious or not so acrimonious. But they look at all that and they see how they've recovered. Did they remarry? Did they take care of their kids? I mean, this stuff is looked at, man.
Right.
Your morality is put on trial effectively by that group. So I will tell you that in my experience, the judges that I've seen that have come out are of the highest quality. Let me say that again. They are of the highest quality. So this idea that, all of a sudden they're going to do something for a lawyer legislature that they appear in front of,
we have seen that in the past, though. We have seen that in the past.
There was a situation where a criminal lawyer who was also a member of the legislature got some things done in a way that was completely
was not right,
wrong, but one bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch, as far as I'm concerned. We have too many good people, and so.
So you think that it doesn't need to be changed?
No, I didn't say that. I'm
okay.
I'm inclined to give the governor some more input into do we change it fully? No. I want both the legislature, because we are legislative controlled for the most part state government.
Yes.
They're governor state controlled, and then there's legislative controlled. Our General Assembly, historically based upon the Constitution of South Carolina, has been historically a General Assembly controlled. So cutting them out, and Tara, my daughter, she made a good point. Tara looked at me and she said, "Dad, I don't understand something." I said, "What's that?" She said, "Are we taking it away from the legislature and then giving it all to the governor? In the legislature, you got 170 people making a decision. In the governor, you got one.
Right.
We're taking it from 170 people making a decision to one. Now, which one of those is more apt to be abused?"
Abuse.
And I said, Tara, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. And again, the separation of powers is important. And so, am I willing to work and compromise? Yes, I'll always do that.
But you don't think it's as big a deal as some people are making of it?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
And the reason for that is 42 years of experience. I've tried cases against lawyer legislators in my 42 years, and I will tell you, number one, the lawyer legislators are generally very ethical people, especially lawyers. They have to be. And in addition to that, when they appear in front of that judge, they follow their ethics, and those judges follow their ethics. The judge is really all he is a referee.
Right.
He calls balls and strikes. The law is the law. If you want to challenge the law, you raise your hand and say, "Your Honor, please, court, I'd like to challenge this precedent." And then he either decides whether he's going to let you challenge the precedent in his court or not. If he lets you challenge it, then you say, "Your Honor, I need to make a proffer. I believe that the law should be this, and I want to take it up on appeal, and I want the appellate courts to hear my position on this." And so that's the way our system of justice is. And so if a judge allows that to happen, it doesn't mean he's helping one side or the other. It just means that he's allowing law to flourish. We brought the common law over here from England, and that the whole idea was to bring whatever was there. John Adams, before we even had it in America, said, "Look, these defendants in a criminal case need a defense. If we're going to adopt an American rule, we need to have justice." And justice under the English law system was a very hard prosecutor and a very hard defense, and sitting in the middle is a trial jury, and the judge is over the whole thing. And then decisions are made by that jury, a jury of your peers. And again, that system of justice can't be emulated. And I'll tell you, every country in the world would like to have what we've got, but it's been built into our DNA. How many times have you heard, "I got a right to trial. I'll just see you in court."
Right.
Your point a while ago.
Right.
So again, I'm excited about the prospects of us talking about that and looking at it. Do I think it's as bad as some say? No. The answer is no. Does it need to be tweaked? Everything needs to be tweaked, and it can always be made better. And it's my responsibility.
Well, as times change, too.
Yeah, it's my responsibility to try to help. And on the federal side, the way they do it is the president appoints, and then the Senate. In this case, you won't have just the Senate doing the analysis. You'll have the whole General Assembly. So it's, again, you're not really adopting the federal system because the federal system doesn't include the House. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, you've got 170 people making that decision. We've always made that decision in that way. Now you're going to change it, and you're going to let a governor make all the decisions on who's going to be, and then just the Senate or the entire General Assembly has to decide whether or not they're good or bad. Again, and if we move, we need to move incrementally and slowly. And there's a judicial canon that I've asked Justice Kittredge to consider. And that would be one that says that before you have a trial, if anybody complains, have a hearing on the record. And if John Dover says, well, I don't like trying cases in front of this guy and you because he selected you or he helped you get elected. And on the normal case, I would say, Ann, that's not a big deal, okay? Because I'm one of 170 votes. Big deal, okay? Right. Now, if that lawyer legislature counted votes for you, or pushed your agenda or tried to get you seconds, then that relationship is much, much more problematical in my mind. It would have the appearance of an impropriety. And frankly, if I were a judge and I had somebody that did that for me, I wouldn't hear his case.
Well, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Well, you shouldn't.
You should.
And Ann, right now, any judge is under the appearance of impropriety doctrine. So if a judge feels like that's improper, he shouldn't hear the case. He should immediately call court administration and say, look, send me another judge. Listen, we got a bunch of judges. It's not that much. We got a lot of retired judges. We put $400,000 in the budget to cover just retired judges last year. Okay.
Well, all this is very interesting, particularly since WCRS has made such a case about the corruptness of our judges, and everything.
Show me any of them that are in jail. Show me any judges in jail for a violation of law. Show me any.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
You're not going to find any. And the system works. The system that was put into our Constitution works. It's worked all these years. And just because you got somebody out there not happy about whatever it is they're not happy about,
right?
And they want to come in and start throwing bombs,
right,
at the judicial system. Well, I take offense at that. I've spent my life doing it and making sure it's done right, and those around me doing it right. And I've honestly felt like 99% of the time it's been done right. And to be honest with you, we have an ethical duty if we see something that's not right to report it. And I have had to report things before.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Right.
I'm just saying that the system.
So this is personal to you, Billy.
It's personal.
I mean, that's what comes out of this.
Well,
yes.
it's personal in that.
It's been your life.
I've got a lot of justice for a lot of people over 42 years. As I've told you, I've represented over 8,000 to 9,000 families in this very county.
Right.
And I made sure they got justice. And if they didn't get justice, it wasn't because of the judge, because if it had been, I would have filed a grievance or done something against that judge if it was improper.
Right.
And we have what we call circuit judges. Why do we have that perfect system? That perfect system means that we don't have your local judges in your district all the time. They ride the circuit. And why is that?
So they can't get attached.
You can't get it. You see what I'm saying now?
Sure.
So before people start throwing bombs, look, everything can be changed, but don't say that every judge in South Carolina is corrupt, because I'll call you out on it. It's not true. You show me one. Mm-hmm. You quit talking about it and woofing about it and talking about all these verdicts and all these things that people are talking about. Show me. I guess
you're not much for WCRS, huh?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. There's some things that we need to doge. For instance, the Medicaid system in South Carolina needs to be doged from top to bottom. Okay.
Right.
So don't
No, I'm
suggest
talking
it.
about the organization Doge SC or
I'm
SC
fine
Doge.
with
Yeah.
listen. Any organization that gets involved in politics, what I want to talk a little bit about in a minute.
Sure.
I'm excited about it. Listen, I'm perfectly excited about the I like the Charlie Kirk approach. Let's talk about it. Tell me why it's good or bad, and I'll tell you what I think.
Tell me why I'm wrong. Yeah,
tell me why I'm
wrong.
And then we, the people who are listening can make a decision who's right and who's wrong.
That's the beauty of talk radio.
It is, Ann.
Yes,
I get
is.
it.
Yeah.
Listen, I get it. I'm here as much as you invite me. I'm
Right.
here. It's good and it's fair and so many people learn from this. I hope this setting helps people understand a little bit more about what's going on. But there needs to be a lot of those. We got a lot of rules and regulations that need to be cut, and absolutely. We've got a lot of things that we need to do. The Medicare, Medicaid system is awash with fraud, as you saw in Minnesota. Don't think South Carolina doesn't have its problems. I can assure you there are some lawsuits being filed right now as we speak.
Right.
They're going to be dealing with a lot of these things as soon as we get really started back. And the powers that be look at it and see how bad it is. In fact, I'm very comfortable that the Attorney General will be filing some of these lawsuits. I've actually seen some of them.
Really?
So yeah. I mean, look, there's some bad stuff going on with Medicaid. And it needs to stop, and it's our responsibility as stewards
From
of the
what
government.
aspect of what? From
Well, to give you an example.
Okay, example.
Let me give you an example.
This is totally off the topic we were going to talk about, but I
doesn't
love
matter.
it. Yeah, I like it.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Let's talk about it a minute. Suppose you got the DSS office in Greenwood, okay? It's got an address, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Suppose somebody decides to use that address and create a false company, but use that address.
Right.
And let's suppose they find a list of children's Social Security numbers that they get off the internet, okay? And so this company that's operating allegedly out of the DSS office to make it look
Right,
legit,
right.
goes out and purchase services for these and ask for all these services for these kids on Medicaid.
Right. Except
Okay.
there aren't really kids on Medicaid.
They don't exist.
Right.
They exist, but not here, okay?
Right.
So millions of dollars of what they're asking or what they actually were supposed to have gotten, they never got, and it went into the pockets of these scammers. That's going on right now in
Well, it's
Minnesota.
the same thing in
It's
Minnesota.
and
But we have the same
we've
thing
got
here in
the same
South
kind
Carolina.
of thing here, but not quite as pervasive. But it is here, and we are having to stop it. And listen, I don't have any problem with people who are entitled to Medicaid getting Medicaid. I want them to. Matter of fact, I think the older people should be able to get their teeth fixed. I really do. I think
Well, I mean,
again,
that
everything
teeth
can
goes-
be
right.
everything can be improved, and so. But the thought there are people that have $1 million worth of assets and are on Medicaid.
Right. I agree.
I'm just,
And
those
what
people
about, and
need
what
to be
about there
under
are
the jail.
What about illegals? We have a lot of
Same
illegals
thing
on
there,
this
and we
Medicaid.
America can't afford that. We have our own population. We have children that we need to take care of and help, and we've got elderly people that are now in a situation where their care is more than their Social Security or whatever
right.
it is they have, and so we have to buffer it somehow. We have to help along, So
I think one of the things that I have known about for years that I don't think it's ever gotten fixed, but senior citizens that only get like $20 SNAP benefits, food benefits, and they are starving, and they literally are starving, but because their Social Security isn't this much, they don't get anything, and that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I get it, and that's part of our social contract with the people. We have to make sure that they're protected. I have debated in my brain, I don't know how long, about the idea that I'm paying for lunches for school for children who don't have it.
Right.
Okay, and to think about, I'm being made to do that through taxation.
Right.
Which I'm not supposed to be taxed without representation.
Right.
And so here I am being taxed for that. But then if I don't do it, then the kids are hungry because their parents are no good and not taking care of them, man. To
Well,
be
the other side of it
to be
is
where
there's so
setting
many
right.
children that don't need it, though.
Yeah.
But we just give it to all so that there is no problem. I mean, that doesn't seem quite right either.
It doesn't, Ann, and that's problematical. Okay,
Right.
I mean it really is. I mean the cost of students that we put out per year compared to other states is through the roof. I mean it's unbelievable how much per
Cost
student
per child.
per
Cost per
child,
child,
per
right.
student or whatever, per child. And again, I'd rather spend the money on education. We were talking about roads a minute ago,
Right.
and roads, spending money on roads, but education for our children. But if the kids haven't eaten a breakfast or they hadn't had a lunch,
No,
then
there's studies that show they can't learn.
they can't learn. So
Right.
again, I get it, and so I'm having to, in my mind, deal with it as a form of education.
Right.
No different than the book. They can't learn without the book. Well, they can't learn without the food. So.
You probably can't learn without the computer, Billy, in today's
Well,
world.
I'm sorry. You can tell how old I am by talking about
What
the book.
about this $18 million to teach children that they shouldn't be on these screens? I saw that's one that's going to be coming up. What is your opinion about that? I mean, we can't do it for
hogwash.
less than $18 million.
Hogwash.
I think it's hogwash.
I'll be voting against that.
Good.
I'll be voting against that. Yeah, I mean, Ann, I'm responsible to the people of this district, and I'm not going to spend a dime of their money that I wouldn't spend myself. And sometimes I'm torn about what it is that we're spending, but we have to make those sometimes hard decisions, and so that's part of my responsibility. That's the responsibility the good people of Greenwood have given me, and I intend to carry it out.
Absolutely. Well, we are here with Senator Billy Garrett. He handles Greenwood County, District 10, right? District
That's right.
10,
That's right.
all the way down to Lexington, parts of Saluda, yes?
Yes.
Parts of Saluda, all the way down. In fact, if you have a question here this afternoon, you can use our new text or voice line, 864-332-9355. 864-332-9355. Love to hear from you if you have a question. So we're talking about, well, we just kind of opened the door to education. What are you looking at? What do you want to see this year in the legislature? What are your key issues that you're pushing for, that you want to see bills put forth on, or subjects that you want to make sure they're brought up, even if it's not your bill?
And, I'm a member of the Family Caucus, and the Family Caucus is both Senate and House members who are dedicated to Christ, of course, and are dedicated to trying to make sure that whatever we do helps the people, helps the family. I truly believe, and I just finished Dr. Ben Carson's book recently about the destruction of the American family and how that is just destroying us here, there, and yonder, and how we need to work together. So anything that I'm looking at, I've taken out the Republican platform, and I, as I told you before, and I really mean this, I have my Bible, I have my Constitution, and then I have the platform, and I literally think about every piece of legislation in that vein. Is this biblical? Is this moral? Is this sound? 2, is it constitutional? And then finally, at the end of the day, does it meet with the goals of the Republican platform? I really believe that if we don't wake up America, wake up Greenwood, we're going to find ourselves similar to New York with Mondami, who is a socialist, an avowed Marxist socialist. And I'm telling you, a lot of our intelligentsia, a lot of the people that have been in our education for the last 60 years have been touting this stuff, and it's starting to affect us. And it's going to affect us, and it's more in the blue states, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which. It doesn't need to be here at all. The capitalist system has worked. We're the greatest nation on earth because of it. We'll continue to be the greatest nation on earth because of it. We tweak it as we go. We don't have big swoops one way or the other. But we really need to be thinking about, do we want America covered up with immigrants who have no right to be here? Do we really want to spend all of our tax money instead of taking care of our own? Do we want to take care of people from other countries?
Well, I think that with Trump, we definitely have seen a sway the other way to say, no, we don't.
Well, and I think the people that voted for him are asking him to do that, and he's done that. And I'm excited about the fact that he's done that. And the same thing with narco-terrorism. You know, they're killing more people than on the battlefields. And you know, I lost a son to this stuff. All I can tell you is this stuff is dangerous. It'll kill your children. Ladies and gentlemen, look at your children right now. Go look them in the eye. They may be dead in 6 months because somebody gave somebody a pill that somehow was supposed to be something innocuous and it wasn't. And the poor child died. All I can tell you is that you don't think it can happen to you. I promise you, it can happen to you. So what he's doing in stopping that coming across the border is absolutely imperative. And anybody that doesn't like it's tough. I'm sorry for you. If you support that kind of thing, having drugs coming in, you know, into America, illicit drugs killing our youth, then you don't need to be an American. I don't think you are. And there are a lot of people out there who don't want to be American anymore. There's a lot of people who hate America. And all I can say about that is I'm hoping that Charlie Kirk's revival of spirit in America, I'm hoping that the people, the younger generations are finally seeing the importance of getting back to traditional values. And I'm hoping and praying that in our next few elections that we be thinking about that. We need to register as many people to vote as we can, and we need to register and vote for people who are constitutional conservatives, who are Christian conservatives, and conservatives who are physical conservatives, and spending your money wisely.
I think that is true, and I think there is a big concern, particularly what happened in the elections that just happened. Who would have believed that some of the people that got elected, but they did. So I think that is a concern, and I think I saw Trump at the retreat today saying, "You gotta get off your asses and do something about this,"
right?
Because it needs to be done. Okay, but in the meantime, while we're working on this, what are we doing? What are the bills, or what things are you particularly looking at? We don't have 5 hours this afternoon, Billy. We've got an hour. So What are you looking for? What are you particularly, shall we say, excited about? What about, since we're just talking about drugs, what about medical marijuana? Look at what President Trump did by changing that. Does that change what's going to happen in South Carolina?
Well, you know, again, if you'll go back and look at my arguments on the Senate floor about medical marijuana, I'm in favor of medicinal marijuana that is used in clinical studies to see whether or not it's going to be beneficial to a person's malady, whatever that malady is. There's 2 bills that have already passed that deal with children and deal with other maladies that can be that hopefully marijuana can fix. But instead, we didn't go through and spend the money that we should have spent. Now, what he said was, if you go back and look, he wanted to spend the money for veterans and he wanted to spend the money for older people, the retired folks, and he wanted to do clinical studies. Okay? He did not say he wanted recreational marijuana like that bill down in our South Carolina General Assembly is going to do.
But what is the possibility? Number one, do you think that many people smoke marijuana in Greenwood County?
A lot do. Yeah, so, there's a lot of people that do. But Ann, let me just say this: the difference between the marijuana that's smoked, you know, illegally here is nowhere near the strength of the marijuana that's going to come down the pipe if this is allowed. I mean, they're allowing children to smoke this. If he's got one of those recommended cards, he can do it at school. Okay, they can't smoke it; they can vape it.
Right.
Okay, or they can eat a gummy, or they can whatever.
Right.
You know, they can take this THC, and as I said, you know, 0.06% of everybody that takes it has a psychiatric episode that sometimes they don't come back from. And Ann, all of these states are telling us don't do it, because if you do, all of our hospitals, all the emergency rooms are getting these people in there who have smoked marijuana in the past, and then they went and they smoked this high octane.
Right.
Like 90% or whatever it is. It
is a lot more powerful
through
than
the
it
roof.
was back in the 60s and the 70s.
And,
yes.
and they're having these psychiatric episodes. So again, Ann, it's dangerous, and it needs to be done slowly. I don't have
What
any.
about some of these drinks in the gas station and everything?
And we're trying to shut those down. I mean, you saw where this kratom was there. We passed a bill for kratom, actually out of my subcommittee, to stop kratom. You know, the synthetic type of kratom that China's producing and all these other countries are producing is poison. Kratom in and of itself, the plant, is a supplement that, if used properly, correctly, has been very, very beneficial to a lot of people. It's just taking something good and abusing it, is the problem. And so now we put it behind the counter. You have to be 21 to get it, and you can't have any products that have kratom in it. Okay, and these and it's like they call it a store. What do they call it? Cocaine highway. In other words, you go down the highway and just go from one store to the next and get you some more kratom and whatever. So all that needs to stop, and I think they've just.
Well, what kind of situation? What do you think the possibilities of? First, of course, they're going to go for medical marijuana here in the state because that's the opening door to, of course, get to recreational. What do you think that with what Trump did say, the possibilities of medical marijuana will be?
I'm hoping and praying that the legislature has enough sense for the whole body to not be wooed by all the money.
Okay,
and that they not be wooed by all the money, but instead they want to be science-based and have clinical studies that for people that need it, and also the right to try. If you're dying and the doctor says you're dying and they want to try marijuana, go for it. I'm good with it as long as it's under those conditions. The right to try is something that President Trump came up with, and we adopted it in South Carolina. So I'm in favor of that. Again, I'm not trying to be hard about any of this stuff.
No, I guess what I'm saying though, Billy, is it going to make it easier for what was happening on the federal level to get medical marijuana here in South Carolina?
Yeah.
What do you think the possibilities are?
I think it's gonna move it forward. The Senate had already approved it. I voted against it, and the majority leadership voted against it. I'm just not in favor of it, but the majority of the Senate did vote for it, but the House did not. And so I don't know whether or not the change of the scheduling by the president is going to create another, 1,000 lobbyists down there talking about all the money that's going to be made.
Well, I think one of the questions is, Billy, how, and this we could talk the same about gambling, and I know that you're against the gambling coming into the state, but also y'all want to reduce the taxes, the income taxes, and where is the money going to come from to do this?
And as President Trump has demonstrated, if we churn up this economy, and I'm talking about South Carolina's growing at 7.75%, we're one of the highest producing and increasing states in the union right now. The federal side is doing over 3%. We're doing 7.75%, and it's only going up. And that's why we got these excess money. We're overtaxing the people. We're running the government.
Well, y'all can just write us a check and send it back to us.
Nothing would suit me better, Ann, than for us to do that. It's not our money.
Right.
It's the people's money. And so how do we spend it? We've got tremendous reserves already. Okay.
Correct.
And as
rainy day fund, you got a good rainy day fund.
As our population increases, we need to make sure that we have enough rainy day funds to take care of those people. But by the same token, anything above and beyond that ought to go back to the people to help generate that income that I'm talking about, new businesses, new small businesses, putting money in the coffer. I'd rather see businesses being taxed than people being taxed. Same thing on the federal level. Listen, what I want to hear Trump say one day is that in 1914, I think it was around 1940, there was no federal income tax.
Right.
I'd like to hear him say, we're going to do away, instead of just tips and overtime.
Right.
I'm going to do away with this tax, income tax
right,
for the whole country. We got enough money, Ann, if we're not blowing it on the crazy stuff that in the last 4 years or the past 5 years.
Well, we got that $37 trillion worth of debt here now, Billy. That's got to be paid down somehow.
I get it, and we're going to, and according to Trump, in 12 years from the day he went into office, if they will continue his process after he leaves, he has 4 years, in 12 years they have projections that they can pay it off. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. And maybe they're puffing. Maybe it's a good used car salesman.
I probably won't be here. I won't have to worry about it.
It's making me, making us happy about hearing it. But, again, we got a convention of states that we're talking about, and I honestly believe that once the convention of states calls for a convention, I think the federal government's going to put into place methods for us to be able to balance the budget in a number of years, except in times of war.
Do we not have a balanced budget? Does there not a balanced budget for the federal government? I mean, I thought they just don't do it.
They don't.
I know, but I thought that I'm sure they would have a balanced budget law or amendment or something.
I'm aware of. I'm not sure if, I'd have to research that, to be honest with you. They certainly, as you said, they haven't been following it.
Right.
And, last time I was listening to Newt Gingrich the other evening and listening to him talk about balancing the budget with Clinton. And believe it or not, he forced Clinton, and Clinton forced the Republican Party tighten its belt, and they balanced the budget. So it's been that long since our budget has been balanced, and look at us now. And so, we've got to come up with a plan, a 12-year plan, a 25-year plan, whatever it is, to literally eliminate that budget. So, budget deficit. So again, I just think with a lot of the things that we're doing now, if we can keep the capitalist system growing, look at energy prices are coming down finally. And so
that's this week, Billy. Next week the gas prices will be up. Have you ever seen anything so crazy as that? One week they're up, 1 week they're down.
It goes, but Ann, think about what he's talking about. What President Trump's talking about is us being energy independent.
Right.
And us drill, baby, drill.
Right.
And that's what he's doing. And he just seemed to have taken over Venezuela. He's got the largest oil reserves there is, but it's sour oil. It's not the kind of oil that we have.
Black gold, yes.
But the bottom line is that he recognizes that inflation that was brought on by the Biden administration in many terms were caused by the extra cost of energy, because it hits every item.
Right.
And so as we decrease the cost of energy, in theory, prices should come down. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I've seen a price go up, I've never seen it come down.
Exactly. Or a service.
Whatever.
How often do you see a service come back down after it goes up?
I get it.
And Duke Energy is asking for an increase, and
I get it. And so it's the balance, it's the happy balance, the happy medium that we have to strive for. And making our quality of life good, Ann. Again, there are a lot of people out there that are suffering right now. Go to the grocery stores. I've seen people put stuff back. Like I remember when I was working in the cashier in the grocery store at Piggly Wiggly, South Greenwood. There were times and people would come up there and, they have their buggy full and they would just go over and we'd have to take some things out. And so that's been going on since I was a kid in grocery business back then. So, again, people want more than they can get. But right now, our purchasing power is nowhere near what it used to be. It's our responsibility, the Republican on the national level and the Republicans on the state level, to do all we can to bring the prices down. One of the ways to do that is through energy. I want us to be energy popular here in South Carolina. I want us to have all the energy we possibly need. I want to see us take the problem right now, the area in our timber areas. We're in trouble. Nobody wants to pulpwood. You got to have pulpwood thinning. If you don't, your trees can't grow. One of the biggest economies that we have in South Carolina is our forestry. So what happens if we don't take care of it and move it? So I'm talking about taking that pulpwood, putting it in cogen plants or mass bioplants, burning it, until we can get these little small nuclear submarine type. It takes 3 to 5 years to build one, but you can build one of these cogen plants in 30 days. Whereas, you can't build one of these other plants, for some time. It takes you 3 to 5 years. But then I'll have all these smaller nuclear plants, like a submarine nuclear plant, running our large industries, and then selling back to the grid the extra that they have, and we need to invest there. In addition to the roads, in addition to all the other things, we need to be investing in energy. The more energy we have, the less the price. Let me say that again. The more energy we have, the less the price will be. And so we have to make sure that as we increase the production of energy, we concomitantly, as my famous professor said, I didn't know what that word meant. At the same time, we have to reduce the cost of energy at the same time. So I'm hoping that happens. I'm going to be looking forward to that, because if once we get that abundance of energy, right, shouldn't the price come down? Now we're talking about putting data centers in, but I'm trying to make sure that we, at the same time those data centers come in, that we make sure that they have enough water and they have enough energy to sustain them without hurting residential prices. Okay. So
all right. Well, what do you think about these solar farms?
it's another form of energy. I'm okay with us utilizing anything that works. You know, if solar farms are sufficient for the amount of money the investment in them, and the amount of land they take up, if it's one of the 25-year plan or whatever our plan is for the state to be able to harness and grow energy, if it's part of that plan and it's smart, I'm all in favor of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we could talk another couple hours here. Earmarks. What about earmarks? Last year, the state governor said we're not going to have any earmarks. I know a lot of legislators were disappointed. A lot of projects got put on hold. What is it looking like for this year? You certainly have enough money to be able to do some of these earmarks, but how? There was talk about having just a big granting pool and people would have to apply to the grant. What are you thinking is going to happen this year on, quote, earmarks?
Well, this will be my second year on finance, so I'm at the lower end of the spectrum as far as decision making. But let me just say this: we have a tremendous chairman who's very strong, and he's the one who said no earmarks, and there was no earmark.
And who is that?
And that's Chairman Harvey Peeler.
Okay.
And so.
But what about Clemson? Didn't they get some stuff?
Yeah, Clemson.
I don't mean to bring it up a point here, but didn't they get some stuff?
Clemson did extremely well with it. And the state of South Carolina did very well with a new veterinary school.
Right.
And I'm excited for us to have that because our veterinarians are having to be trained in Georgia. I don't want a Georgia veterinarian. I want a South Carolina veterinarian. In any event, yeah. And so what he's advised us, and again, he may have changed his position, so we'll all be ears to listen to what he says. But he wants to make sure that if it's any earmark, that he can make sure that the money goes to that earmark, and none of it is wasted, and none of it is squandered, and none of it's defrauded. And
well, we've had a big problem with that in the past. No oversight. Well, get the money and no oversight.
That's where he's at. He's basically, as a steward of our government, as our leader, he's saying no more. And that suits me fine. You know, I told you a minute ago about Medicaid, what's going on with Medicaid. You know, and that's a lot of federal money. 66% of that money is federal money, and the matching is 33 or 34% state. But still, it's getting wasted.
Sure.
You know, again,
waste is waste.
I think that if he says no more earmarks forever, and we have to put it into a pool and we have to get in and negotiate for who gets what, and it's fairly based upon the populations and it's fairly based upon the districts, then I'm okay with it. When I first came in, as I told you, Anna, you may remember this, I first came in and the budget was there and there was nothing in there for Greenwood. And of course, there was a lot of things for Greenwood that weren't in the budget that I recognized. In other words, there were no earmarks.
Right.
And I looked down and I saw there was this earmark for $30 million for a museum in Sumter. And I said, Sumter. And I said, how did my friend Thomas McElveen, how did he get that? You know, how was that? How did that happen? And they just said, well, he's on finance and he's worked it and whatnot. And
Billy, so you're on finance too.
Well, I am now. and so one of the reasons I'm on finance is for that very reason. I want to make sure I understand exactly how that's done, and bring as much to this district as we can. I mean, you know, we've just, you know, unbelievable amounts of money. I can't wait till I can publish what the first 4 years were and then what last year was for the district. You know, my district changed, so it's going to change somewhat, but it's tremendous, you know.
So, you're not sure whether there will be earmarks or whether you'll have to.
I think there will be earmarks, but I think they will be strictly limited. I think they'll be extremely tight. is what I think. But again, whatever's in his mind is the way it's going to be.
Does it really? It really affects different communities differently depending on their size, right?
There's no question about it, Ann. We could have used money, for a host of things that we do here in philanthropy with Connie Max, and we get a lot of money for the Genetics Center. There's just a host of things. Our Crisis Pregnancy Center gets a lot of money. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things we're still getting money for. It's not earmarked. In other words, it's reoccurring, or it's part of a 4-year plan where you get a fourth of it, a fourth of it, a fourth of it, or whatever. So you have to really study the budget to really understand exactly what an earmark is in relationship to what your normal takes.
I think one of the best examples of something that turned around was Delahow.
Oh wow, isn't that great?
When you look at where Delahow was, how much money was being just poured in there with no oversight, and today where they're at and what they're doing.
Isn't that fantastic?
It is fantastic.
I'm just so excited about Tim Cowan and his team over there. He's doing a tremendous, tremendous job, and we're now graduating kids for high school into college. We're getting them into to Clemson.
I've interviewed some of them. Yeah.
Isn't it great?
Yeah. I am very impressed with the quality of student that goes there and is excited to go there, as opposed to it being a place where nobody wanted to go.
Yeah, these kids are excited about agriculture. They're going to be our future. They're going to be the hydroponics of the future. They're going to do all
the honeybees and
yeah. They're going to do it all, and they're on the cutting edge. By the way,
right.
Clemson University is, as far as the nation's concerned, is top of the line, and they're learning from the top of the line. Those Clemson professors are down there,
right,
helping them, and then the kids are going up to Clemson to see the variety of things they're doing.
Something that was a money loser and was a abyss of money just being squandered to see what it is today is pretty impressive. So what that shows me is that it can be done.
Well, we got Ann Hancock on there too.
Well, okay, we got Ann.
We helped get Ann Hancock on there, and I'll shout out to her. She's just tremendous, and in spite of her young age, she's a breath of fresh air. She's a light. And all of that together with Tim and his team working as they are, the board down there is just doing such a fantastic job. And the support of the community. We got the support of the whole state of South Carolina pouring into that. That's one of the things that we can be proud of. Henry McMaster can be extremely proud of his school of excellence for agriculture.
Absolutely. Well, what do you think, what are just, as we finish up here maybe, what are some key regional issues that you think our area, particularly your district, needs to address or you're going to be working on?
I'm working on a school for Ware Shoals.
A school for Ware Shoals.
Yeah, what was told to us was that we could get a school in Abbeville County, then in Saluda County, and then in Greenwood County. And that was with the prior education secretary. And when the new one came in, that went away.
Ellen Weaver.
That went away. And I have been trying to figure out what it can do, whether it's an earmark and whatever. How can we get that school and help the Ware Shoals people? Their school was born in 1955. It's a year older than I am, and I'm old. So,
you go in their schools. I was in their schools at Christmas time, and they just remind you of an old-timey school. They are in good condition. I get it. They take great care of them.
They've thrown enough paint over that over the years to hold it together like a plank. I really feel like those children deserve something modern. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to help them. And then the next one would be 96. But 96 has got some newer schools, than Greenwood's. Greenwood's got some great schools, by the way.
Absolutely. We've got some that we're busting out of the seams on. But
we've got great schools. And so I just want to make sure that regionally that we take care of them. I got one, like I said, in Abbeville. We got one in Saluda. I want to make sure we get one here
For Ware Shoals.
Ware Shoals. That's probably on my agenda is one of the biggest things that I really want to see done, and we'll focus on that. We've got a lot of just great things going on in Greenwood. The penny sales tax is created a lot of vibe for a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that our county will adopt a 25-year plan, and we'll make sure that the 25-year plan is consistent with that growth, and that the things that have been slated for that are tied in with what the state can do. The state can do tremendous things when it comes to infrastructure. I'd love to see the south end of Greenwood start growing with infrastructure as it relates to sewer and water and gas. We need plenty of industry coming into Greenwood. I want to really focus on that.
Well, we've lost some industry here.
We've lost some
year.
industry,
yes,
and we need to make up for that. And
right.
so I'm going to be working on that. And so education, small businesses as a whole, are things that we really need to work on, and I intend to do that. And at the same time, we need to cut. We cut $1 billion, and let's cut this income tax some more. Let's keep cutting it. As we're growing this economy at 7 3/4. We can do that, and we can cut it. I don't think they need to cut it automatically, as some of the Doge people. I'll put it down, or Miss Mace, I think, put it down to 0. It's easy. If you want to keep services where they're at, and you want to be able to keep a semblance of mediocrity as it relates to not raising taxes, and you want to slow them down a little bit, that's the way to do it. And originally that was Senator Peeler's idea, was to cut it 1/4, and he decided, we're not going to do earmarks. I'm going to go ahead and cut it 1%. So if he decides he wants to spend,
and then they found all this extra money, Billy.
I get it, and if he decides, I'd rather him be conservative and not know that the money's there and not spend it, than to have spent it and found out, we didn't have it.
Right.
And so again, if you want us to be stewards of your money, we need to make sure it's there before we can talk about how do we spend it. And again, I'm not in favor of a lot of spending. I mean, I really would like to see it go back to the people. I believe the people, for you, I'd like to see something help you here and expand your bandwidth or whatever it is.
Right, sure. Yeah.
Here you are in Greenwood, so I mean, why aren't we helping Ann Eller and her business here? Again, you're helping the public, so why can't we help you? Again, I want to help small businesses. I want to.
Well, I think that's very admirable. And what do people? How do people keep up with what you're working on, Billy? What's the best way for people to stay in touch?
My phone number is 554-0963. That's my personal cell number. 554-0963. So anybody can call me anytime, and I will return your call.
Except for me sometimes. No,
pardon?
Except for me sometimes.
Well, it depends on whether you've talked to me for 2 hours before. Sometimes, and you talk me out. You're Miss Talk Radio.
I'm a talker.
You're
okay,
a talker.
Okay.
But anyway, contact me. I'm talking about, and I'm working. I'm trying to get together to where I send out some type of update newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about how to do that, and try to do that on a monthly basis, maybe quarterly. But we're talking about that, so at least people can know what it is we're working on. And as I said, we're finishing out a 2-year term, and so there's a lot of work that's got to be done.
Well,
be finished.
People need to understand what happens at the end of this 2-year term. If it's not passed, if the bill doesn't go through, then it's SOL.
Over.
Yep.
It's over. You have to start all over again the following year for the next 2 years. So that's a possibility that could happen. And so as many of those bills as we can get. Let me just say real quick, I want to shout out to my MAP bill.
Yes.
What's the MAP bill? My MAP bill says mothers and preborns. And what it's going to do is create within the Department of Health and Human Services an ombudsperson who helps every expecting mother in South Carolina know every opportunity and thing that's out there for her to help her with her pregnancy and to help her with her newborn child, both public and private, regional and statewide. That'll be published, and that will be published in every doctor's office or anywhere an expecting mother might go, just to let them know what we're trying to do to help them. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that we're trying to help these women in these situations. I mean, we're trying to, and we're working on the adoption bill.
I was just going to ask you, is they moving that forward,
yeah,
or is that?
Actually, the new Senator Lee Bright called me up the other day, and he said, "I like your adoption bill. I'd love to be able to help you on it. Can I co-sponsor it with you?" So yeah, I mean, again, we've got I think a good movement towards trying to speed up the adoption process and to make it better. So again, there's a lot of social issues, there are a lot of physical issues. There's just a lot of issues, and so we have to spend appropriate time studying it. And as I said, my Bible, my Constitution, and then my platform. And I really like to shout out for Linda Corley and Gene Griffin. I really want people to get involved in politics. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, get involved. We need to hear your voice. Only 40% of the people vote, or either registered to vote, Ann.
Well,
so
it depends on the election as to how many people actually show up and vote.
I get it, but
they've got a push going on right now for an election that's coming up.
We've got a governor's race, and we've got an opportunity here to let Greenwood win. With David Stumbo as being our South Carolina Attorney General from right here in Greenwood and Lawrence. So we need to get the vote out, and we need to go ahead and get people engaged and signed up. So if anybody is interested, I'm going to call this out, and they can go back and replay this later on. It's Glenda Corley. Her phone number is 864-992-5089, and her email address is glendacorley4@gmail.com. And then there's Gene Griffin, who is our second in charge of our Republican Party.
On the executive committee, yes.
Her number is 864-923-1245. And her address is GWDGOP@gmail.com. And these are our leaders. And so if you will call them, they will make sure that you get registered to vote. We hope you join the Republican Party. I've got a copy of our platform, and you can go through our platform and look at it. And then I'd like to post it, if I can, our platform, the Republican platform, the latest one, so people can look at it and see if they align
I think
with it.
One thing people need to understand: not absolutely every point you are going to agree on, but can you agree on 80% or 90%? What is because it's just not. Probably people don't agree on absolutely everything.
That's right. And look, I represent everybody in the district, and I listen to everybody in the district. There may be some crazy ideas. There's some woke ideas out there, about trans and about, men and women's sports and a host of things like that I just, I'm sorry, the great majority just don't want that to happen.
Right.
And so I'm going to stand up for that great majority. But I'm going to listen. I want to hear whatever it is. And if I get convinced and they convince enough people to change the way we're thinking about that, then that's fine. Then that's my responsibility to change. And so, I'm open. I'm always listening.
But I think people have to look. My point was people need to look at the whole picture and then say, I can sign on for X amount of it.
Yeah.
And look at it that way rather than just if it's not a straight up or straight down. There's a lot of room for a lot of people.
Republicans are pro-life, but some of them are more pro-life than others. Okay?
That's true.
Is an example. Okay? And I get it. I'm purely pro-life, and others are not as pro-life. I believe that the child born at conception needs protection of the government against the world, including mom and dad who wants to kill them. I'm sorry. That's where I'm at, and I'll always be there.
You're not sorry.
Well,
no, you're not sorry. That's what you believe, and that's
sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry that there are those who have a different.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry that there are those who have a different belief, but I'm praying for them, and I always will. And they're my constituents too. And
I got to tell you a story real quick.
Okay.
In China.
China.
They have just put an extra tax on birth control. Condoms, birth control, and everything because they need more people.
Yeah.
They just have done this.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And
it's not changing anybody's mind, but that's what they're hoping will happen.
Well, and, we've lost, they're telling me now, 73 million people. We're losing 5,000 kids a year in South Carolina. A lot of it's going into chemical abortion. Mm-hmm. We got to stop it. I mean, we just got to stop it. We need these kids born in South Carolina. We need to help them through adoption. We need to help them through the My MAP program, where we're helping mothers and preborns. There's a lot of stuff we need to do. We need to help these crisis pregnancy centers and help them, so we can keep as many of these children as we can. And let them grow up into a good society and take care
Absolutely.
of them.
I just thought that was hysterical.
It
They're
is.
trying to stimulate for years, 2 children. That was max. That was
two
it.
Children policy. If
right.
you
And
had
now,
3, they'd knock one off.
Now they don't even want. Now people are just saying, I'm not going to have any kids. And they're saying, well, it's going to cost you to have birth control of any type. I think that's hysterical.
Well, just thank God, that we don't live there. If they told you, if you can only have 2 and you had 3, they could kill it or whatever they do.
Whatever they do. But the bottom line, I just thought that was a little fun story.
It is funny because for years and years, we knew they were concerned about overpopulation.
Right.
And they have a tremendous population already.
Right.
But
and
they realize, as Americans need to be realizing, that if the younger people aren't there to help support the older people, we're in trouble.
No, yes, absolutely. And then a lot of people talk about the fact of that is why we need more AI or we need more robots and everything because of lack of population.
Well, again, AI, I just finished the book that Kissinger wrote 4 years ago, and it's grown tremendously even since then. AI and part of the Republican platform talks about we need to make sure that we engage in it and that we control it as it can be controlled, and if we can't control it, we need to discontinue it.
We need to unplug it.
Well, I'm not sure that works anymore.
That's probably true. That's true.
So anyway, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. President Trump has said the states can't do anything about it, but that's ridiculous. I mean, federalism involves every 50 states being the testing
laboratories, right.
testing ground. So he's hurting some of those traditional values in that. But I think we need in South Carolina. We've got some great scientists here who can utilize, and we've got some great industry. Hopefully, they're utilizing it as well. Banks, and there's just so many people that can use this. And look, let me tell you this on this Medicaid stuff. If the Attorney General had enough AI capacity, I could know exactly how many people were on Medicaid unlawfully in one sitting.
Wow.
One sitting, okay. He doesn't have that capacity. Part of his request for budget includes that. I'm hoping David Stumbo takes that and runs with it.
Right.
I really do. And helps us, cut out the fraud. So there's a lot of positive things about it. And
I like doing it. Sometimes I'll do stuff with ChatGPT and it'll be giving me a tough time, or I'll say, that's not right. I've got the source right here. And it goes, you're absolutely right, Ann. Thanks for correcting me. That's one. And sometimes I say to the program, I think you need an upgrade. You're not doing your job right. And it goes back, I'm sorry, Ann. I will try to do better. Please don't turn me off.
It's phenomenal that I was reading that book and it was talking about it beat everybody at chess because it was the thing about it is it was humans that programmed it. But the intelligence of the
machine
AI was able to learn and actually would be giving up the queen. You don't give up the queen, for God's sake.
Right.
If you're in a chess game, don't give up the queen. And they were just giving up the queen, and you would say, well, why would he possibly do that? Well, he gives up the queen and then puts you in checkmate that quick.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So again, and because it thinks differently than we do, so we just have to be careful with it and monitor it and especially as it relates to our nuclear weapon stores and our drones.
Well, I think we need to be careful with children. We need to get back to children not being so connected all the time.
Yeah,
I think
true.
that is
I'll be able to
potential.
limit, like you're saying, 30 minutes or whatever a day.
Right.
At such an age, and more maybe.
Right. I mean, when I was in the grocery line, and this child that couldn't have been more than a year, and they gave it the phone, and it started doing this number, and I'm sitting there watching this kid, and then it got mad and threw the phone on the floor. I'm just like, what the heck is happening here?
Well,
it's scary.
Different
it's really
people
scary.
have a way of training, bringing up their children, and the traditional family is in harm's way. And we need to recognize that and try to get back to as much tradition as we can. I think South Carolina is a wonderful place to bring up a family, Greenwood especially. Just, I'm all about our quality of life and doing all the things that I can do as your senator is to make sure that we keep a good quality of life and that we have all the things that we need. And as it relates to kids and computers, I agree, but that can be done in education. We can't help it once they go home if their parents let them.
Yeah, there's that $18 billion telling you, or million, whatever it is, for teaching kids. I'm just making a joke. Billy, it has been an absolute delight to have you here before the session starts.
Thank you, Ann.
And I look forward to us getting together on a regular basis to be able to give the folks an update.
Let's do that. And for the folks out there, listen, thank you for listening. And also, please don't hesitate to call me. I'm sincere about that. I mean it. And I want to hear from you. If I don't know what you're thinking, how else am I to work? So let me know. It's an honor and pleasure to represent you, but I have to hear from you. It's 554-0963. That's 554-0963. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you very much, Billy Garrett. That's going to do it for us. We did talk over a little bit, but it was good conversation. So thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Bye-bye, everybody. I'll be back in the morning. Take it away, Ann, as we are out of here for today. First show of the year, Billy.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to do it.
All right. Bye-bye.